The New York Rangers have been a very active team so far this season, making moves like giving extensions out to guys like Alexis Lafreniere, Igor Shesterkin. We saw a new extension to Will Borgen, who was also a part of that trade where the Rangers sent off Capo Caco to Seattle, and the Rangers got back Will alongside a couple draft picks. We also saw earlier on a Jacob Trouba trade to see him go out the door, and now we've obviously this past weekend seen the Rangers trade away Jimmy Vesey, a prospect, and Ryan Lindgren, and also we seemingly are going to have another New York Rangers trade coming at any time in the very near future that will more than likely happen before this upcoming Friday, March 7th, which is the NHL trade deadline. And with that rapidly approaching, one more player that definitely seems to be on the move here is Reilly Smith. There's a lot of kind of rumors going around about him, and this past weekend, he also did not play in the game against the Nashville Predators on Sunday, and also Monday night is not going to be playing because of roster management purposes, which it pretty much means the Rangers are just sitting Reilly Smith, not playing him so he doesn't get hurt, obviously, so they're able to trade him at this deadline for hopefully some pretty good value in return. And we're going to kind of take a look at what the kind of trade rumors are here, some of the trade news around Reilly Smith, kind of what the Rangers could possibly get back in return. And there actually has already been a fairly kind of comparable deal that's already happened in the NHL that really kind of goes to show how much the Rangers could possibly get back in return for Reilly Smith. So we'll take a look at kind of what he'd go for, the kind of rumored type of teams he could possibly be going to as well. So lots of kind of discussion here around Reilly Smith and the kind of trade news rumors. So we're going to take a look at that and some more stuff about the New York Rangers in today's video as well. But let's get right into it here and start off by talking about the Reilly Smith trade news, which I think it's not too surprising with where this New York Rangers team is at. Trading away Reilly Smith makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, this past offseason, the Rangers traded for Reilly Smith, knowing he was going to be on this team for more than likely just this season. But unfortunately, things haven't quite worked out for the Rangers. They ended up trading away. It was like a second and a fifth round pick this past offseason over to the Penguins, while his salary was retained a little bit there. Obviously, it hasn't quite worked out to be a phenomenal deal for the Rangers, as they're not in a spot to really be competing for a cup, which obviously you're trading for a guy like Reilly Smith to help you compete and go on that run. So it's a little unfortunate there, but at the end of the day, it does seem like the Rangers are going to be able to possibly get back, a good amount of that value. So I think that's quite nice. And we'll take a look at kind of what he could possibly get in return for the Rangers as well in a minute. But I think, trading away a guy like Reilly Smith, though, just it does make a lot of sense. This is definitely a player who I don't think needs to be re-signed. With the amount of wingers, especially kind of forwards in general, but especially wingers that are going to be coming up over the next few seasons here. To me, a guy like Reilly Smith just isn't needed to be brought back. I think with where this team's at, going in a bit younger direction with some of the prospects and allowing them to have some more opportunity going forward, I think is probably what's best for this team's future. Now, obviously, I don't think the Rangers are kind of completely throwing in the towel here, but I definitely think the moves they're making are smart ones, and they're helping this team's future out, because right now they're not going to go out there and win a cup this season. And I think trading away a guy like, a Ryan Lindgren, obviously Jimmy Vesey, you trade away a guy like Reilly Smith more than likely now as well. Obviously, the team might be a little worse, but I really don't think they're going to be that much worse as well. And especially with guys like Brett Berard and Brendan Othmann looking like some pretty solid contributors at the NHL level, I don't think it's going to be much of a step back at all. So I think it's also going to be a lot more fun for us fans as well to watch, a guy like Brett Berard and Brendan Othmann over someone like Jimmy Vesey and Reilly Smith. I mean, no offense to them, but if we're being honest here, I think us fans, with the team probably not winning a cup, we want to see some of the young guys here and kind of the future of this team kind of get their opportunity and see what they can do at the NHL level. And that's kind of why I think trading away a guy like Reilly Smith and trading away Vesey definitely made sense there to open up some of these spots for guys like Brett Berard, like your Brendan Othmann, because obviously Othmann got the call up there because of the Kreider injury and stuff like that, but with these kind of moves happening here with Jimmy Vesey and now more than likely Reilly Smith, it definitely seems like there's going to be an opportunity down the stretch here for the rest of this season to have guys like Brett Berard and Brendan Othmann up with the NHL team and kind of playing some meaningful hockey, hopefully, down the stretch here. Now, we'll have to wait and see whether or not this team does make playoffs, but I really don't think this team is much worse off after trading away guys like Lindgren, Vesey, and Smith compared to guys who are going to take their spots like a Brett Berard, a Brendan Othmann, or even a Calvin DeHaan, I don't think is really that much of a step back behind someone like a Ryan Lindgren at this point with the way he's been playing right now this season for the Rangers. I really don't think it's much of a step back at all. So I think overall trading away guys like Ryan Lindgren and Reilly Smith definitely makes a lot of sense for this team, as these are two players who are more than likely not going to be a part of the team's long-term future anyways. So moving off them, getting back some future assets, whether it is picks and or prospects or a young forward like Juuso Parssinen, it's definitely not a bad idea at all, in my opinion. With the way this team's kind of been playing this season, they're obviously not going to win a cup more than likely, so getting back some assets for the future is definitely a very good move. And this Rangers team very well could end up looking to add in another kind of star player like they did, obviously trading for a guy like JT Miller. Maybe they want to add another kind of star guy, which I really am quite sure they do. They want to add another guy, so having some extra draft capital and or prospects or another young forward or two definitely would not be the worst thing at all for this team. And now we'll take a look at the Sports Illustrated article, which does have a quote here from Elliotte Friedman and some more news on the Reilly Smith trade situation. So they end up saying in the article, according to Elliotte Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast, Smith isn't part of the Rangers' future and multiple teams are interested in the 14-year NHL veteran. Quote, I couldn't say for sure it was one particular team that was looking at Smith, Friedman said. I think there were some contenders. That obviously make a lot of sense there. Reilly Smith is a veteran forward now, obviously 14-year NHL career, quite solid there, not bad at all. He's, won that cup with the Vegas Golden Knights, has a lot of experience in the playoffs, and when he's been in the playoffs playing those games, he's actually produced at a very good level as well. So I think overall with his kind of play style there, he's got a bit of physicality to him, a bit of, pretty solid defensive game, solid all-around forward there, has that experience, can perform in the playoffs, and obviously has that cup under his belt. So I think he'd be a great pickup for a lot of cup contending teams. You can throw him down there on like your third line. That could provide some really solid depth for, I'm sure, lots of teams there, while also adding in a pretty responsible all-around kind of forward. Definitely would not be a bad idea for a contending team. Next up here, they also end up saying in the article, no specific teams were listed in Friedman's update on Smith, but it doesn't sound like he'll be heading north of the border before the deadline. I didn't get the sense that it was Canada, Friedman said. It was probably states. I do think it's a couple of contenders. We'll see as the Rangers continue their sell-off of UFAs. And that's obviously interesting because, Reilly Smith does have a 8-team no-trade list, so he can pretty much block out, all 7 of the Canadian teams that he wants to. And it's pretty obvious he's going to go to at least a playoff caliber team. So it definitely does kind of show which kind of teams are probably going to be interested, but there's still kind of a wide range of possibilities, although it definitely limits some of the things down to, more than likely a contending American team. And I also wanted to take a look at the Gustav Nyquist trade, which did happen quite recently as well. And it's actually a very good deal that went down that is going to help out the New York Rangers big time. And that's because a guy like Gustav has, I would say, somewhat similar value to a guy like Reilly Smith. And this season, Reilly has actually played better as well. So I think that definitely goes in the Rangers' favor there, where Gustav Nyquist going for a 2026 second-round pick, going from the Nashville Predators over to Minnesota, and Minnesota sends Nashville a 2026 second-rounder. That looks very good for the Rangers now, being able to get at minimum, a second-round pick for Reilly Smith. This past offseason, the Rangers traded away a second and a fifth for Reilly Smith, with some of his salary being retained, and now the Rangers may be able to get, at minimum, a second-round pick back for Reilly Smith, if not even a little more. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if the Rangers were able to pretty much get back all of what they traded away for Reilly, at this past offseason, giving away that second and a fifth. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were able to get pretty much that exact value back, or maybe a little bit less. But when you take a look at kind of what these two players have done so far this season, you've got Reilly Smith, who has 58 games played, 29 points there. He's obviously that cup winner, solid two-way guy, a veteran, and also has a lot of, good playoff experience there. And you also got a guy like Gustav, who is also a good player, and I think is definitely a quality pickup for, Minnesota there. But I don't think he's quite as good as maybe a guy like Reilly Smith, and definitely hasn't performed quite as well in the playoffs. Maybe isn't as good of an all-around player, possibly you could say, than a guy like Reilly. And I just think with the way things have been going this season there, obviously a guy like Gustav was on a pretty bad Nashville team, but he had 21 points there, 57 games played. You got Reilly, who has 58 games played, 29 points there, so outproducing him a bit there, obviously on a much better team, but I just think it goes to show that, a guy like Reilly Smith should definitely be able to net back quite a bit in return for the Rangers. So trading him away and getting back that second-round pick at minimum, and I really do think it's possible to get even a little bit more, I definitely think would be a great move for the New York Rangers. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. And also, what do you think the Rangers can actually get back in return for Reilly Smith after seeing the Gustav Nyquist trade? Do you think it's going to be more than a second, less than a second, or just exactly that second round pick? Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next one.